So everyone, open up Photoshop. We're going to make our own templates. So click on Photoshop. Boop, boop. I know Photoshop takes a while to open up. Your easiest best bet is to use their preset standard. So if you go to File, New, or if you're opening up Photoshop, it'll prompt you like, do you want a new thing? So either when it prompts you or you hit File, New. And you are going to go over here to the right. Everyone just, I know stuff is still loading up. Go over here to the right where it says Film and Video. And you're gonna you gotta remember that number, 1080 pics, 1920 by 1080. That's standard HD TV. That is what we stream. Why do we do it in 4K? Well, 4K is kind of overkill for us. Plus, it might, you've seen our TriCaster kind of slow down every once in a while. It goes like you've seen that, right? Where it takes a while to ramp up. Our TriCaster is getting, 6 years old. That's old for a PC, right? And basically, a TriCaster is a souped-up PC. So once again, go to File. Josh, can you ask Gigi for some help? File, New, and you're going to choose the 1080p one under Film and Video. That'll give you a nice set. All right. Next, do a save as and call it in highlighted GFX template and then your last name. Do a save as, you call it GFX template and your last name. Save it as a PSD. PSD is Photoshop document. The difference between a PSD and a ping is you can't modify the ping later. Like a ping kind of locks it in. Brian's still on? Alright. Okay. Part of this is, one, is so that you can kind of feel like you have a better handle on Photoshop. Two, I want to show you a few new tricks. But the main reason why we're doing this is so that every team kind of has their own look and feel, okay? And what often actually happens is you guys vote on one, but you wind up liking, you kind of like elements of each, so you kind of make a hybrid version usually. You like, I like Tim's, but I want to add a little of Susie's in with Tim. Can we take that logo? And that's what usually winds up happening. Okay. All right. Your requirements for your graphic template. So if you're like Sean or you're like Travis that have had some Photoshop experience, you might want to just go off after I tell you what you guys need to have. You're going to need to have a PIP, that's the picture box. You're going to need to have a lower third box and example text. Okay? I want you sticking to that MA color palette, but remember you do have the blacks and the grays also. And you have that one beige and brown color to it as well if you wanted to add some more depth there. In your template, I would like you to have an example picture in the picture in picture box. So any picture you want, like the template I have, the template I've given you, has SpongeBob. Let me just open up the template as well. There it is, right? It can be any picture, just to kind of give it a look and feel. And it should have some sort of example text. You can make your own headline. Keep it appropriate, don't swear. So I need a pip box or a circle, a lower third box or a lower circle, or some sort of shape where the lower third text would go. Has example text in each, has an example picture. Somewhere in your template, you need to have some sort of MA logo or something that has MA Today or MA. So this one has our traditional logo, which is actually, should be 1951. It's actually graduating. This is an incorrection here. The graduating class was 1952. but school started in 1951, right? Right? Because you're the class of 2019, right? And then he also put MA Today up here. If you want to know the MA Today, our traditional logo, just the tradition, you can do whatever you want for your other things. But my traditional MA Today is always in copperplate bold. So that's copperplate bold. You don't have to do that. But if you wanted that MA Today look, that is copperplate bold. Copperplate bold. That is actually all the signage that you see on our campus that is kind of official looking. We have two fonts. We have Copperplate, and I believe we have Helvetica. So all like the big titles, all the big titles are usually in Copperplate, and then all like the descriptions or wording is usually in Helvetica. I might be wrong on that Helvetica. It might be Arial, but I'm pretty sure it's Helvetica. I think it is. Yes. I've heard of the movie. All right. There's a documentary about Helvetica. Yeah. All right. But you choose the fonts you want. Definitely have a unique style about your template. Play with something like you don't have to have a bar like this. Like you could just have a floating picture. If you look at examples, right? Like if you look at PIP graphic examples, right? I go to images. That's not well. What did I spell wrong? This is news. Man, they used to. Never mind. I'll do a better internet search when I'm not recording. And so should have something look neat. So you don't have to have this. Some people just have the floating picture. Some people have a bar. Some people have it fully embedded. Like if you watch Last Week Tonight, they have a full. This whole thing is solid with white. This whole thing here is white. They don't even have anything floating or jutting out. It's like a bar. So every show kind of has a different look to it. You pick you kind of experiment with it. Okay. Let's see. Looks neat and tidy. And then your layers. So here's the tricky thing I'm going to go over with you later. At the end of the period, so at around 10:40, I'm going to talk about organizing your layers. So look how nice this is, right? If I don't want, if I just want the lower third, I can just hide the whole folder, and now I have a lower third text. That's done really well. So he labeled these all. He organized them all in folders, and that way I can really kind of mess around with what I want. So the lower third text is usually on top. He called it upper third, but you can also call it pip. So that way, if you were like, oh wait, remember who was going yesterday? Maroon, right? Maroon had a graphic, right? And that graphic was covering Luke's face because it was on the camera too, right? So when you're making these graphics, you can easily just make it a lower third, right? So that's something we're going to learn about and do. All right. So here is your thing. If you didn't save as, file, save scene as. Okay. And we're going to save it as a PSD file, PSD, Photoshop document. And you're going to call it 2_GFX for graphics template. And then underscore your last name. Okay. And I'm going to give you reminders of everything. These reminders are also under the pickup drive on my cheat sheet. It's called UV Map. I need to change that name for you guys. But there's a nice little circles, all the important stuff. So you got your selection tools up here. You don't really need the clone stamp. I'm not going to show you the clone stamp. The spill bucket, I'm going to show you one more thing with the spill bucket called the gradients. You have your text editing, you have your color picker, you have your layers, and Command T is free transform. There's two hotkeys you really should kind of know and just get used to. Command T for free transformation, and Command D for deselecting stuff. So when you have ants marching and you want to get rid of it, Command D is very helpful. You can also click off the picture with your selection tool, and that will also deselect stuff. Okay, you are not required, but if you wanted to throw Adrian in there again, so you have a reference. Where's Adrian? There he is. You don't have to, but if you wanted to throw Adrian in there for a reference, go for it. And just so you can kind of know how far you can kind of jut out and all that stuff. All right. I'm going to get rid of the background layer. You can either unlock it and then right click and choose delete. And remember, after you've dragged a picture in there, I kind of did it without telling you. Remember, you have to hit enter after you drag the picture in there. Okay. Let me give you some reminders. Color picker. Color picker is right here. I highly recommend, everyone see the color picker? I highly recommend having just kind of maroon and gold as both. And then maybe every once in a while switching to black or gray or something that you want. If you'd like the hex codes, you can also type in right here the hex code. For maroon is 7B0829. And the hex code for gold, these are also in that pickup folder. The hex code for gold is FEC33B. Okay. Reminders. So I'm going to let you kind of work on your own. Shapes is right here. Everyone see where I'm clicking for shapes? Okay. Shapes is right there. The text tool is the one that looks like a T. And remember, when you click on the text tool, you have your options up top. You have your options up top, right? So the color for my text right now is yellow. The font for my text right now is Myriad Pro. Okay. As I keep looking, the selection tools. You have your magic wand if you want to play with magic wand. You have your magnetic lasso if you have a complex picture you want to crop. But you don't have to do much of that right now. You just have to throw in some sort of sample image, either one of our teachers that I've given you, or you can grab something off the internet. But I want to show you one more thing that's kind of cool. So let's follow along with one more thing. Everyone, stop what you're doing, and let's go play with this for a second. Play with it's called the marquee selection, and I want you to choose the rectangular marquee selection, not the elliptical one. So once again, it's up here. And you have several options. You have the rectangular, elliptical, single row, nope, single column, nope. We just want a rectangular marquee selection tool, this guy. Because you might want to do this. Okay. So remember how the example had a bar here? I'm just going to make a bar right now for you guys. Okay. So take this rectangular tool right here, and I want you to drag a box. You can even start it outside the picture. Something like that. And notice it doesn't go beyond the image, right? So I've selected it off the image, and it limits itself to that image. So did everyone see what I'm doing? I want you to just try this fun trick. Okay, right here. Good. Make a box. Now you could do this with a circle too. Okay. I don't know if we've used the spill bucket, but we have a spill bucket and we have this thing called a gradient tool. Both are fun. It's right here. Click and hold and choose the spill bucket first. Click and hold and choose the spill bucket first. Paint bucket, sorry. It used to be called spill bucket, now it's called paint bucket. Sorry. I keep changing the names and locations of this stuff and it drives me nuts. It's hidden underneath the gradient tool, which we are going to look at, right? So we got the paint bucket after we've made that rectangular marquee, right? Now the color I'm going to use is gold, but you can use either. And notice if I go to my paint bucket, no. Oh, we need to make a new layer. My bad. Forgot one last step. All right. Paint bucket. Okay, let me start over. Take my rectangular selection. Make it big. Boom. I have a nice little rectangle right here. Select my color I want. Make a new layer over here. How do you make a new blank layer? No. Good remembering. No. We want a blank layer. This is what I haven't shown you. I can do it a couple ways. I can right click and choose new. Oh, I can't choose new layer. Everyone look down here in the lower right-hand corner. This button right here, it's a very tiny button. Everyone seeing it? I feel like you're not looking up here, Malik. Right here, I can make blank layers. I can also go up here to File, New Layer, right? Or Layer, sorry. Layer, New Layer, my bad. Sorry, I was not in Photoshop mode this morning. Layer, New Layer, or I can hit this button right here. Yeah, Dre. Oh, Command Alt Z. Command Alt Z or Option Z. Option Command Z takes you back more than one step. I'll be right there. Are you on a wireframe? There. All right. All right, so you need a fresh layer. Okay, so I've made my marquee with the rectangle. I've made a new layer by pressing this button, or I've gone to Layer, New Layer. I've chosen my color, and now I'm going to go to the spill bucket or paint bucket, which is underneath the gradient tool. I'm going to show you both. And the paint bucket lets you fill in a blank shape, right? So if I just click in that square, the paint bucket fills that selection. Command D unselects it. You could also just you can make this fill any shape, right? So if I wanted to do like a geometric bear, right? Just gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna do a really bad bear right now. Very geometric here. Sure, why not? Very bad bear. Right? I have that selection. I have a maroon selected. I go to my spill bucket, and I can make like a quick color like that. I went to, instead of magnetic lasso, I went to polygon lasso, or I could also try to hand draw it. Just kind of showing you some potential that you can. I want you to kind of explore the tools that you have in a second, making your own template. I'm going to get rid of that layer. Delete layer. Oh, not duplicate. Sorry. My eyes. Delete layer. All right. Yes, delete. Deselect. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to get rid of this layer. I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to repeat the process, except I'm going to play with the gradient tool. So I'm going to, instead of this paint bucket here, right? Instead of paint bucket, I'm going to click and choose gradient. This one gets fun. What's up? It's right. Then you have a gradient. Look. So remember, there's so many tools in Photoshop. They like to kind of categorize and hide them. So you click gradient, you got a paint bucket. But just do gradient now. You might want to do gradient instead. So gradient, I have maroon and gold still. I'm going to first go to my marquee. I'm starting the whole process over, repeating everything because repetition works. So I'm using my rectangular marquee. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to make a new layer, pressing this button over here. Right there. And now I'm going to use my gradient tool. I'm going to use my gradient tool right here. And where I left click will be maroon. Where I release will be gold. So if I wanted a small gradient, I can left click here and release here. And I have that. Everyone see it? Everyone look what I did? Usually someone goes, oh. Right? So once again, I hit my gradient tool with my marquee selection. And let's say wherever I left click is going to be maroon. Wherever I release is going to be gold. Left click here. Go all the way to here. So, and I have this maroon fading to gold. If I wanted to do a small one, like I wanted the top part to be maroon and the bottom part to be gold, I can left click very close to the bottom. So now the majority of it's maroon, and then this kind of becomes a taper. You're also not restricted from being a straight line. Do I want to go diagonal? Right? Do I want it to be horizontal? And remember, whatever is the top color here will be where you click. The bottom color will be where you release. Right? So now I swapped them. So now my left click now is gold and my release is maroon. You don't have to do this. I just wanted to show you this. It gets a nice little style going with it. There's also different ways to fade. We have different ways to kind of crossfade these things. Like if you want to do it to transparent. Oop. Oh, because it's full. I have to let me delete this layer. There you go. And now, there. So this one is your top color to transparency. So if I left click, you got it. So you have remember, your top always has the options for your tool that you're using. So it gives you all these different like kind of options. Usually these two. It also gives you different patterns. So there's actually a starburst pattern. So now if I wanted a circular gradient, there's also this thing, I forget what it's called. And there's also a band. Make sure you got to make sure you're on a fresh layer, right? You got to make sure you got a marquee selected so it limits where it goes. You don't have to use this tool. You don't have to use gradient. Everything I've shown you in the last other 2 weeks, you could make the template without doing this. It's just a nice trick to have. It's a nice thing to know about. I feel like that's the one thing you should know in Photoshop on top of the other stuff I've shown you, just to kind of create your template. All right, so you're on your own. You're on your own for the next 45 minutes, let's say next half hour, to start your template. So basically what I want you to make your own unique template, right? So none of yours should look like this, right? You can borrow some ideas. Oh, I like how we had MA today on the left-hand side. Oh, I like how he used that logo, but I want to take that logo. I liked how it was yellow, right? You can take aspects of this. All right. So you do what you'd like to do. Everyone is going to turn in their own variation of what they think a graphic template looks like, right? When you hit the square, so when you go to your tool here, boop, right? And then it's up here where it says fill. Yeah. And it always has your most recent used colors on the top. And then remember stroke. Stroke is Photoshop's word for outline. At about 10:45, I'm going to talk about naming and organizing your layers. And then you're not turning these in today. You're turning these in Monday. Or if you're maroon, you're turning them in Friday. If you're gold, you're turning them in Tuesday. Sorry, Monday. Yeah.
How do you get like?
He duplicated the layer over and over and over again, and then there's this feature right here. There's a merge layers. If you have multiple layers selected, you can right click and say merge. So he duplicated it over and 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 over again, and then merged them all. So you had like 20, and then they became one. Transparent is called opacity, and it's right. So by layer, you see right up here. So let me find the SpongeBob layer. Upper third. There's the picture. So I make sure that layer is selected, and then opacity is right here. So, right. What I'm doing right here? Oh, the gradient. You switch your gradient up here in the options. It's the second option. So this one right here.
It has to be yellow and burgundy, right?
Yeah. The hex codes and the color examples are in that graphics practice folder, which is right here. One more thing to remind you. Remember those thirds lines, right? Remember these thirds lines? Someone pointed out on their segment the other day, they're like, oh, my text got cut off. That's why we have these thirds lines. They're for video and for Photoshop. So try to keep your text, that outer line is the home run fence, out of bounds. The inner line is kind of like your warning track. So you can have stuff be on the fringe out here, but it's kind of like warning track, out of bounds. So even though it looks good okay here, it might not look good on every TV screen. Why is that? It's because every manufacturer has a slightly different measurement for pixel because there is no standard. So then like 1080 pixels at a slightly different size creates slightly different size TVs and aspect ratios and Yeah. Yeah. Like a shadow or like a duplicate? Oh, right click duplicate. Shadow is going to be blending options. That's stroke for outline, drop shadow. Hear that Grizzly, the Memphis Grizzlies, and they put up the line of the words of it. There you go. So, what you are going to need to do is that if you are maroon, I'd like you to turn it in tomorrow. So I'd like you to take all period tomorrow, get it set and ready while gold's doing the show. If you're gold, I'd like you to finish it Monday. So while maroon's doing their show, you're doing this you're finishing up this graphic template. The other thing that's going to be really, 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 really helpful for your team once they decide to use your graphic template is the organization of the layers, right? And it might evolve, but I want you to try to take a stab at it right now or tomorrow or the next day. So remember, I'm not going to be here Friday. So I just want to show it to you now. Organizing this is rather easy. It just takes some time and effort, okay? So what you want to wind up doing is, for your graphics template here, right? If I were to have I'm just going to make one real quick, right? Oops, undo, sorry. Just going to make a box. Then I'm going to make another box. Okay, and then I'm going to just take some text. I'm going to be like, headline here. Make that maroon. That's too small. And then, make it a little bigger. Right. And then, one more. Just doing a very, 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 very duplicate layer. There you go. Right? So I have all these things that are rectangle or whatever I typed. Hello doing, right? So what I want to do is I might want to relabel this stuff. So this box right here, I need to call PIP bar, right? If you don't have a PIP box, it's a PIP bar, right? So you just want to relabel all your shapes so that they can be quickly identifiable by some random user. Because remember, it's going to be a template. So other people from your group are going to be using this, so it needs to be easily workable. I'm going to hit rectangle here. This is my lower third. So if it's on the lower third line, it's at the bottom, we always refer to it as lower third. And you can type in 3RD, right? Same thing for here, which text is which. This is the lower third text. You can always double check it by clicking the eyeball and seeing it go on and off. So once again, this is going to be lower third text. And notice it doesn't change the lower third text. It doesn't change the actual words. It labels that text now as lower third. And this one now becomes PIP text. Text. Now, a couple things to remember about layers. If I put my PIP bar on top of my text, I lose my text. I don't see my text. It's not lost. It's just up there. So the order in which you have it is really important. Let me grab a logo here. I'll just grab this logo. Right. Right. Oh, Malik, did you figure out how to flip it? Okay. All right. Perfect. So what you want to do is you want to figure out the order and the grouping that needs to do it. Generally speaking, the lower third goes on top. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to take my lower third text. I'm going to move it on top. I'm going to take my lower third bar and move it on top. Oops. Yeah. I'm going to take my lower third bar. Where's my lower third bar? Oh, there it is. And move it on top. Oops, I accidentally deleted everything. You got to make sure your bars and your shapes are underneath your text. You got to make sure everything's in the right place. When that's all set and ready, I can do a couple things. I can either select all 3 layers, and I can choose group, or I can make a new folder, or I like to just make folders here. So right next to new layer is new folder. And I have a group. It says group 1. It's called a group, but it looks like a folder. And I'll call this lower third. Right? And then again, I can make another folder, and I'll call that PIP. If I had other stuff, like a background image or other things, I can get this. A group here, I'm going to call this one PIP. And I'm going to move pip below lower third, not into lower third, right? If the box is highlighted like that, that means it's going inside that folder. You can have folders within folders. If it's a line, that means it's going underneath it. Now I'm going to take my pips, my 2 pips. I'm going to drag them into my PIP folder. So now, get rid of Adrian. My template is ready. It's not an awesome template. It's not neat and tidy. I'd say this right here, say this is probably like a C-.
Wait, do we have to make it in the lines?
You should these thirds.
Yeah.
Your bars and shapes can go outside. Try to have your text within that outside home run fence. Yeah, but your bars and shape can go wherever. Good question. Good. Well, you're going to want your lower third text in the lower third folder, and you're going to want your PIP text, and you're going to probably want 2, just so people have options. Can you make these different fonts and colors and styles? Yes. Someone was asking that. I did that faster than I thought I would. Does anyone have any questions?